We're back, people, and today we're breaking down film on the Ravens defense, seeing what the Dolphins can do to attack them. This will be one of their toughest matchups all season long. The Ravens defense is legit, and they're very versatile. Like, they will run every coverage at you week after week. Like, we're going to look at them versus the Niners, and they did a great job versus the 49ers. I do think, there was some, like, the interceptions really changed this game, and if you don't, and some of those kind of were fortunate and lucky to bounce the Ravens' way. A lot of them came off those tips. That doesn't happen every single week, and, they earned those plays, but at the same time, it's not something that I'm, like, super concerned about within the future of it, happening at, like, a consistent level against the Dolphins. So, but yeah, they'll come out. They came out and ran a lot of single high early against the Niners, but they mixed things up. They really wanted to stop the run clearly, and I think game flow really helped out the Ravens in this game going up because they were kind of struggling to stop the run. That's one thing I think the Dolphins have to commit to the run, whether it's too high, single high. I expect to see a little more split field safety looks against the Dolphins than against the Niners. Clearly, teams versus the Niners are going to run a little more single high, being more concerned with McCaffrey. Teams tend to play a little more split field safety looks to be more concerned with Tyreek in the Dolphins offense. So, they'll see that. So running the ball effectively will be important. I think they came out in base on like the first play, but they'll move their DBs around. If Kyle Hamilton's playing, he's one of the best players on the field. He's amazing. He can do pretty much everything they ask of him. Makes it super versatile. I would say the one tendency I noticed is when they did come out on a drive and start like single high, they ran cover 3 or cover 1. They stuck with that for multiple plays straight. So it'd be like cover 1, cover 3, cover 3, cover 1 for like 3 or 4 plays, and then they'd start switching it up. Or if they came out in cover 6, then they would run cover 6, cover 4, cover 4, cover 6, like 3 or 4 plays in a row. Seems like they like to stick with those things for multiple plays in a row. It wasn't like super common, at least in this Niners game, that they switched it up play to play. It was seemed like they had that sort of tendency, and I do think attacking maybe the linebackers. The linebackers are very good, but I think if you give them some eye candy underneath, they're very aggressive and will try to, get down there and make these plays. So, working some things behind over the middle of the field, I feel like they become a little less comfortable with their awareness when things get behind them. They're more like C players, and then they're very athletic, get downhill, make big plays, and they'll probably make some big plays and have chances for, interceptions over the middle. But I also think that's where you can find the most success against that defense. And if they do run man-to-man, I feel pretty confident with the Dolphins' chances, even with Waddle out. So I expect to see, a lot of, cover 6 quarters, even though they ran that stuff a lot last year against the Dolphins, and that didn't work out, but they have much more talent this year around. So should be a good battle. But if there's any team that I see sort of having success against the Ravens defense, it's the Dolphins offense. And I think as long as those, big turnovers don't happen, this game should be fairly close. First play of the game, we're going to break this down. They came out in base. They don't do this a lot. They'll run a lot of nickel, and they came out with a blitz. They blitzed a decent amount early and then showed a little bit throughout the middle of the game and then started blitzing again late. So, they'll mix this stuff in. It's not, super common, but they came out right away. I would expect to see a little less blitzes because the best way to beat the Dolphins offense is to bring 4 and get after the line. You shouldn't be trying to bring blitzes. 2 is actually very good against the blitz, but he can struggle under pressure when it's just 4 and he doesn't have, that quick option to get the ball out to. And then here, try to get that ball out and Kyle Hamilton make the play on McCaffrey out in space. Probably, I understand this blitz gets it timed up, but if you get a one-on-one with number 40 on space, even though that's Kyle Juszczyk against him, you probably take it. But yeah, I feel pretty good if it's single high and they're trying to bring blitzes against the Dolphins offense a little more effectively than what the Niners did, even though, the Niners are a great team too. But yeah, coming out, I think running the ball early, getting that going, I think then you can be able to attack this team through the air a little bit more effectively. 3rd and 7, they go cover 1. Man-to-man, and we can see Kittle here gets a huge play. Humphrey is on Ayuk. They do a good job underneath here. They're trying to disguise Humphrey's going to be on Kittle right here. Humphrey actually does move around a lot. He'll play outside. He'll play the nickel a lot too. It helps them disguise things, and they'll even put him in the nickel when they're not running man-to-man either. So that's another area they do to disguise things. They bring 5 up front on this cover 1, but Kittle gets all this space to work with. This is why I expect not to see it too much for the Dolphins. They're just very explosive up front, and Kittle found some success. Dolphins don't have the tight end for that, but they do have those weapons at the receiver's position, and they get the ball out quickly on timing. And those big plays are definitely there to take advantage of. You just can't have those turnovers that the Niners did because that's what ended up really, really hurting them in this game. The first interception, this is just a great play by Kyle Hamilton. Poor read by Brock Purdy. This is the one it just was really bad from Purdy. And the other plays, were more tipped or he was hit at the line. And those can be kind of fluky at times, not like super on the quarterback. I mean, the defense earned them, but sometimes the ball doesn't always roll that way. And they just got pretty fortunate with that stuff. And I'm not expecting it a huge thing. But Ravens come out here in cover 6. Seem like they like to play a decent amount of cover 6 in quarters. Once they get sort of this area of the field. If it's goal line, they'll go more man-to-man, but once it gets like in that red area or close to it, they'll go to this coverage a decent amount. I think the biggest problem with this play for the Niners is they come back to a very similar throw and they get a touchdown to Ronnie Bell against this coverage, throwing it over the middle of the field, and he had a chance here to get this. The problem is they don't have anything threatening. Kittle's running like a out, they're running a return underneath, and there's nothing to threaten Kyle Hamilton to this side of the field. He's the cover 2 guy over here. If they have something threatening him to the corner, this should be wide open for a touchdown. So I think it's just play design really hurt them on this specific situation. Kyle Hamilton makes a great play. He's a very good player, but I was a huge fan of him coming out of Notre Dame, and that's where the interception comes. But they do end up scoring this later on, and I think Kyle Hamilton practiced yesterday. Don't know if he's practiced today, making this before all that stuff has come out, but we'll see if he ends up playing. If he doesn't play, that's like the biggest loss they could have outside of Lamar Jackson for this team. Then the second drive, they come out. Niners decide to actually run the ball. They find some success. Ravens are in a split field safety look. Niners found success running in this game pretty much in any look that the Ravens were giving them. And while the Niners are definitely a better run team, I think overall, like on a consistent level than the Dolphins can still find a lot of, Dolphins are ranked number 1. I just think the Niners are a little more consistent at it, and I think the Dolphins can still find success. Mostert's banged up, Achane's banged up, get maybe Jeff Wilson going with some fresh legs, but definitely playing physical up front against this team is important. You don't want to get bullied by them, and I think the Dolphins have a little bit of a reputation for being like a finesse team because of how explosive they are offensively, and they made big plays. I just don't think that's the case. There's a reason they're one of the best running teams in the NFL on both sides of the ball, stopping the run and getting the run going, because they are very, very physical on both sides of the ball. 3rd and 9. Ravens are running quarters, and it's not like they're always trying to disguise their looks on the back end. They usually actually make it decently obvious what they're trying to run. Sometimes in the game they'll disguise, sometimes they don't, so it's it's nice to mix up for them, but they just distribute their routes so well. Everyone, even with the motion, they end up being in a good position. They're just so much more disciplined compared to last year when the Dolphins played them, because they were giving up some big plays. And I do think there's opportunity for that still, just because of how explosive the Dolphins offense is. It's just going to be less to do with the Ravens defense this time, because they just distribute everything perfectly. There's nowhere to really go with that ball. They try to get the ball out to McCaffrey on a 3rd and 9. Everything is pretty much locked up. You got to be a little bit more patient here, but Brock is pretty worried about the pass rush, and I understand it because the rest of the Niners line wasn't playing too great. You got to just not go down in this one. If you go down too early, it's going to be very, very difficult to come back, because that's exactly what the Ravens defense wants. Next drive, they found some success over the middle of the field to Kittle. Smythe was getting involved the last game, and it doesn't even need to necessarily be a tight end to get involved over the middle, but they attacked the seam versus cover 3. As you can see, their linebackers are aggressive. They sometimes don't just sit in the middle of the field. They'll go out and match things. You see he gets hands on Kittle here, and he's just immediately already breaking to Christian McCaffrey, leaving all this room for space. Smith cheats to this side of the field. Roquan, they're definitely talented players, but they are willing to get a little bit over aggressive at times, and I think you can attack that part of the field. And I think with Tua's eyes, they can definitely take advantage of that too, if he could be manipulative with them too. And it doesn't necessarily need to be a tight end that's hitting this stuff. It can be receivers, running backs, whatever. The Dolphins have the personnel for it. It's going to be tough without Waddle, but I think the other guys can step up and make plays if this is the room that they're being given. Here's the second interception. It's 1st and 10. Looks like they might try to run the ball here, and I think they go RPO because he sees the blitzing corner, and it's just unfortunate. Great play by the Ravens defense, but also unfortunate. Not the type of play that happens every single week. These are types of play that can be pretty fortunate. It's a great play by this defender, but it doesn't always end up turning into an interception. Brock makes the correct read on the RPO. This guy blitzes, throw it to Debo in space. He has a 1-on-1 with a safety, but 21 makes a great play, and it just tips back right into Humphrey's hand. And then these types of plays just kept turning into points for the Ravens, and that's how the game got out of hand. I think if these two teams played again, I think the Niners have a very good chance of winning, even though it was a blowout. And not to take away anything from the Ravens, because I think they're a great team, one of the best teams in the NFL. I just think things definitely fell their way a little bit in this game, and that's just not something that happens every single week. But definitely don't want to take away any credit from them, because they're very, very, very solid. Here's the next Brock interception. It's 3rd and 5. He's trying to do a little too much. They do a great job of disguising here. Specifically when they're running cover 3, it looks like they're trying to disguise it. If they're in a split field look, they'll rotate to cover 3, and usually they when they're in like a single high look, it will just be single high. They don't usually try to rotate into the split field, but they're showing pressure pre-snap. They rotate into cover 3. It's 3rd and 5. They actually, block it up decently, but Purdy starts to feel a little bit of pressure, starts escaping a little bit too early. He's not within the time of the offense. They cover it up well, but now he's just trying to do too much, and then they get a penalty anyways. And then he's trying to throw it back across his body, and now it should just be an incompletion, but it also gets another bounce right into this guy's hands, and they get another score off of this. These are just the unfortunate things you can't do. So this type of play I don't really seeing happening. I don't mean Tua doesn't run around in the pocket and try to do all that stuff. That's not really his game. Like, he'll escape if he has the opportunity, but if he escapes, he's going to either look to just throw it right away or throw it away. The Niners then respond by just running the ball down the field to McCaffrey, working some, outside zone lead stuff. Even with a single high look, they have, the numbers in the box to stop it. They weren't doing that great. The Ravens also struggled to stop the run versus the Rams too, and those are the most similar offenses to the Dolphins in the NFL. So running the ball will be important. The Rams played a good game. Like, that's the one I expected to be more like what the Rams game was like for the Dolphins than the Niners one, just because the Niners had so many unfortunate plays happen to them that just aren't things that happen game to game, and they could still find success moving the ball down the field in the running game and attacking the middle of the field, which I think the Dolphins can do. So hopefully the running backs are healthy for them. Blocking, getting physical. I think the receivers blocking is also very important because they were doing a good job versus the Ravens secondary when it came to blocking. Next drive, they try to go single high that drive. They come back out in quarters this time. It just feel like every drive was completely flipped from the previous one. And then this is the next interception. Purdy trying to get the ball out quickly on a 1st and 10, and he just gets hit. And this one forces. It's another one of those interceptions. That's a great play by the defense, but also kind of unfortunate because you're getting hit, and it forces the ball to be off path, and it just goes right into the linebacker's hand. It felt like every time it could go to the Ravens DBs or linebackers, it did when the opportunity was there. So just unfortunate stuff. Purdy holding onto the ball a little bit too long. I think the difference for the Dolphins, and that I'm okay with, like, if you saw Tua missing some easy ones last week, this is why I'm fine with it, because boom, here, not there, and he goes back to this side of the field, this ball would have been out right there. It would have already been out, and maybe it would have been thrown incomplete, but Tua was getting rid of the ball so quickly because of how good the Cowboys' front is. The Ravens' front is also very good, and that's why I'm okay with getting the ball quickly, because in these plays are less likely to happen. I'd rather punt than have, a dumb turnover. These are the plays that, like, lose you these types of games. Feels like this is one of the only times where they got to do what they want up front. They get the play action, they get the decent pocket, they get the footwork. This is the stuff the Dolphins like to run. Ravens running cover 3. If you get enough time to create, and the Dolphins do a pretty good job of this, I think this is one thing they do really well, is creating these clean pockets off of play action just by how they set this up. They pull the guards across. It'll be tough versus the Ravens, but clearly there's definitely opportunity for it. It just slows down these guys from getting their true pass rushes. And as you can see, like, Purdy's just patient with it. This linebacker sees a little bit underneath with this pass-off option. He starts to break. Even though Purdy is ready to throw it down the field, this linebacker gets pulled out of the way. Like, they get aggressive with things in front of them. They don't have a great, like, they're very, very instinctive when they can see everything in front of them. I don't think they're very instinctive when these passes start getting behind them like that, and you can definitely attack that part of the field. Ravens in cover 6, you might think, oh, it's man-to-man. Marlon Humphrey is, in the slot over Debo Smith, or Debo Samuel, not Debo Smith, but it doesn't end up being that. They end up just throwing, slants, cover 6 type look, and he's just reading Humphrey. He sees Humphrey squeeze this long enough, and Humphrey almost comes off of it late enough to get the pick. It's just a little too late, and it hits Ayuk in stride. But just want to show that they'll do those types of things. It's not going to be corners over. He will line up in the slot and not be man-to-man. He'll line up outside. He'll line up pretty much anywhere for this defense. Last play that I'm going to break down. This is the play that I was talking about earlier that they scored on. It's not the exact same look, but they go, quarters to this. They're playing like cover 6, but it's like to the opposite. And now this guy gets the one-on-one with the safety, and this safety is not able to come back this time. It's not Kyle Hamilton, obviously, but there's something to threaten them to that side of the field in quarters, and he throws it one-on-one. You get that exact look. If you have something threatening that backside, I think you can take advantage of that. They'll run a lot of quarters or cover 6, whatever the look is, and Dolphins found a lot of success versus that defense last year. And they've been doing good against that defense this year, that type of coverage specifically. They've mainly struggled versus cover 2. And I think in this game, the Ravens only ran cover 2 like one time, maybe twice, from what I remember. But it wasn't anything like noteworthy to break down. So that was like the one coverage they didn't go to a whole bunch. It seemed like it was either cover 1, cover 3, quarters, cover 6. tiny bit of cover too, but that was like the main stuff that they did. But they'll definitely mix it up throughout the game. Very versatile, very impressive squad. Should be a great battle. I expect a pretty good game as long as, nothing like crazy happens. But yeah, so overall, if you guys enjoyed it, make sure to like, comment, subscribe, and I'll see you guys next time. Peace.